Hello and welcome to Spotlight on Education. I'm Dr. Jon Kopko, Superintendent of the East Brunswick Public Schools and your host for the program. Today I'm in the studio with two very special guests, Mr. Tom Smith, who is our District Supervisor of Science and Gifted and Talented Education, and also Dr. David Seiden. Dr. Seiden is the Associate Dean for Admissions and Student Affairs at Robert Wood Johnson Medical School of the University of Medicine and Dentistry in the state of New Jersey. So I'd like to say welcome to both of you. As many of you are probably aware, Dr. Seiden has just completed 18 years of service as a member of the East Brunswick Board of Education. He decided not to run for re-election this year, but we are very pleased to report that he continues to devote his time and his talent and his energies on behalf of the East Brunswick Public Schools.
Thank you.
Dr. Seiden recently was awarded a grant from the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, which focuses in on a new approach in teaching science. And David, could you tell us something about that initial proposal and why you decided to apply?
Sure, John. I think it would be helpful if I started off by explaining what the Howard Hughes Medical Institute was and why they solicited these proposals. The Howard Hughes Institute is the largest and probably the most prestigious health research organization in the United States. And they fund many, over 250 research scientists who are working at about 64 different institutions around the country doing the most modern, cutting-edge science in the health area. And the Institute came to the realization that in many locations, particularly in urban centers, within a few blocks of where these most modern science research facilities were operating, there were schools, public schools and private schools, that had science facilities that were decades, if not centuries, behind the time, and that science education that was going on in those places was so far behind what science is today. And so the Howard Hughes Medical Institute decided that what it wanted to do was try to export some of the expertise from these research centers that they were funding scientists at to the local secondary schools. So they put out a proposal, they put out a request for proposals rather, which was sent to all of the medical schools in the United States and all of the academic health science centers in the United States and all of the research centers in the United States, soliciting proposals for ways to work with the schools in the area, pre-college, secondary schools in the area, to help those schools develop their science education programs. Robert Wood Johnson Medical School, of course, got one of those requests for a proposal. And it seemed to me, when it came to my attention, that we had needs of that sort just as urban centers did, that there were many schools in our area, including East Brunswick, in which much could be done to advance science education by working together with the medical school in this area. So this seemed to be a perfect opportunity for us to reach out and get some funds and to have the medical school work with East Brunswick schools as well as other schools in the area.
How was the grant proposal developed?
Well, when we first started thinking about it, the first person I spoke to actually was Dr. Evelyn Ogden, the Deputy Superintendent in East Brunswick. As you know, Dr. Ogden loves to get involved with these kinds of opportunities, and she's very enthusiastic and very creative. And I began to speak with her as to what possibilities she saw for East Brunswick to cooperate with the medical school on this, and she immediately seized upon the idea and contacted Tom Smith to begin discussing our opportunities. But we also wanted to reach out and involve other school systems in the area because there are benefits to having more than one school system working together on developing these kinds of programs. So we did contact some other school systems in Middlesex County to determine what interest and willingness to commit time to this there was out there. And in the end, we ended up developing the proposal in collaboration with South Brunswick Public Schools also, and Dr. Ogden's counterpart in South Brunswick, Willis Spicer, and Tom's counterpart there, Paul Sears, were also involved in coming together. And we had a series of of planning meetings to develop the nuts and bolts of what we wanted to do. The overall theme that we wanted to establish was to change the way science is being taught, and rather than seeing science as a series of different subjects like biology and chemistry and physics and so forth, to have science presented as a continuum, that all science is fundamentally the same, but that different techniques and different kinds of problems are studied in these different disciplines. We know that modern science does not break down into those disciplines, and if you just look at the titles of courses and titles of departments in colleges, you see things like biopsychology and biochemistry and neuroscience, which are interdisciplinary approaches to scientific problems, and we wanted to take that approach.
Tom, what were some of the details of the proposal?
Well, as you know, science education is again going under a change in the United States. The American Association for the Advancement of Science and the National Academy of Sciences have said that we need to take a different approach when we're teaching students about knowledge in science and how we use that knowledge. That we should revisit a topic and not just touch it once and move on to something else. So we took that philosophy and then looked at the topic of neuroscience, which is one of the strengths of the medical schools and something that we do touch on in 7th grade science. We touch on it in biology. And in looking at this topic, we developed a sequence of activities and subtopics that begin in 7th grade at Hammarskjöld with animal behavior, continue in 8th grade with human behavior, in 9th grade with brain biology, and then in the high school in brain biochemistry and other topics in neuroscience. So that students would revisit a topic from a different perspective, but under the overall subtopic of neuroscience. One of the other components was look at how students communicate and how they keep records and what they do with the knowledge that they've learned. We have students keeping journals of their work as they do the work in the classrooms. The journals will follow them as they go from 7th grade to 8th grade to 9th grade, so they get a chance to look in retrospect at some of the things that they've done and see how things change as they grow and gain new knowledge and look at the same topic from a different perspective. We're also looking at electronic communications between the students in East Brunswick and the teachers in East Brunswick and the students and teachers in South Brunswick, so that students can get online on a modem and share their ideas, share the results of experiments that they've done in school with their counterparts in South Brunswick schools.
Dr. Seiden, in June you received a notification that a grant in the amount of $175,000 was awarded. What was the first step in the process then?
After we finished celebrating, we were faced with a need to do some work very rapidly. As you said, we were notified in June that we were funded, and the grant period started in July. We already had some plans about what we were going to do, but now we had to begin implementing them. What we did during that summer was we brought together teachers primarily from 7th and 8th grades, because that's where we were going to start, from both South Brunswick and East Brunswick, brought them together at the medical school and began to introduce them to the current issues in neuroscience. We were able to solicit the assistance of several neuroscientists in the Department of Neuroscience and Cell Biology at the medical school, as well as the Department of Psychology at Rutgers University. And these scientists presented to the teachers what it is that they were doing in neuroscience today, the techniques they were using, the kinds of questions they were asking, the kinds of results they were getting, how they were using those results to build on further questions, and also took these teachers to their laboratories to show them how science is in fact being done today. It also gave the teachers the opportunity afterwards at the medical school, as well as at their home sites, to meet collectively from the two school districts and to begin planning curriculum. The perspective from the medical school side is that we don't know how to teach 7th or 8th or 9th or 10th graders. That's not what our expertise is, but we certainly do know science. And what we want to do is to present to the experts in secondary school education what is out there, what's available, what kinds of problems are being worked on today, what kinds of techniques are being used, sort of give them a menu from which to choose, and then let them begin to develop their ideas about how to present what they think would be appropriate for the students, and then use the medical school as a resource. We're using the grant funds not only to pay for the teacher training that we were just talking about, but also to pay for the supplies that whatever project they develop requires, as well as, and I think this is very important, to buy some pieces of equipment. Oftentimes, a science program would want to do a particular kind of experiment which requires an expensive piece of equipment, and it can't be justified to have a school system buy that one piece of equipment just to do one experiment for one day or a couple of days each year. But if the medical schools buys that equipment through the grant, we can then give it to one school system when they need it for their experiments, give it to another school system when they need it for their experiments, and you know, it's sort of the economy of scale, and as well as using Howard Hughes funds instead of taxpayer funds to support these kinds of advances.
Tom, how many of our staff members participated in the program, and what was your impression of the program as well?
We had 3 staff members, Mr. Timko and Mr. Hockenjoss from 7th grade at Hammersholt, and Mrs. Jones from 8th grade at Churchill. I felt that there were really 2 major strengths of the program this summer. First is the teachers getting to meet the research professors at the university, the research scientists. They really get a perspective that you can't get from a textbook, you can't get from teacher training under the normal circumstances. So it was sort of eye-opening to go through laboratories and to talk with these scientists about what they were doing in the course of their research. The second thing I thought was a strength of the program was our teachers got to work with teachers from South Brunswick. Getting teachers from one district to work with teachers in another district rarely happens. Our school calendars are different, our professional days are different, staff development days are different. And this was an opportunity to broaden the perspective that teachers have about what goes on in a classroom, to look at another district and see how they do things differently. The curriculum modules that the teachers developed were done very well. They included technology, the use of laser disc programs, computer programs, and they got to bounce ideas off one another. And the product that they come up with is one that's being field tested currently in the schools.
Well, we're fortunate to have a videotape of a 7th grade class, which is taught by Mr. Joseph Timko at Hammersholt, and we're going to take a look at that tape now.
Okay, just some external features of the earthworm that I want you to be familiarized with. First of all, the head is going to be closest to the clitellum, okay? The clitellum being a reproductive structure. It's called also a segmented worm, and you can see why. It has over 120 to 200 individual segments, and these small hair-like structures. Anybody remember? Well, it's listed up there anyways. What is it? The setae, all right, the bristles, okay? So when you touch your earthworm, kind of run your fingers up and down, you'll feel like sandpaper. That's the bristles, all right? If you see openings on the 11th or 15th segment, they are oviduct openings and sperm duct openings. You know this animal can reproduce with another worm, but it also has the reproductive structures of both male and female. Anybody remember what that term was? Reproductive? All right. Hermaphroditic. Okay, hermaphroditic. All right? So, the majority of your responses and instinctive behavior is going to be at this end. All right, that's the end you want to concentrate because that's where all the major organs are. The nerve center, which is not a true brain, but nonetheless, it's a little bit more advanced than you saw with the planaria or the euglena or any of the protists. Okay? Once again, instinctive behavior is inborn. Response or reaction to a stimulus. It's a natural pattern of behavior that is not learned. Okay? Once again, not learned. You are born with it. An organism is born with it. Okay? You have 6 experiments or questions of which you will design your own experiments on the handout. You also, as a result of your journal entry, have 5 more experiments that if you get done with these first 6, what I suggest you do is with you and your partner decide out of the 10 which ones you would like to research or experiment to find the answers to the hypothesis or your questions. We have the worms, we have the petri dishes, the paper towels. Please make sure that the paper towel is moist. Once again, we want to keep the earthworm from drying out. All right? I have some vinegar here and some Caro syrup, some rulers, scissors. I have some construction paper, colored and black. I have ice cubes, which I will get in a minute, for anybody who wants to test temperature. The Petri dishes are, if you want to keep your earthworm in it while you set up your dissection tray, whether you have to put soil in it, whether you would have to put ice or food in it, you can keep the worm outside in the Petri dish so it doesn't get in the way as you're setting up your experiment. All right, so that's what these are for. I have some wood blocks here, I have some sand, and I have some potting soil. Now, your hypothesis on what? Is it going to choose the soil or the sand? Was that your original question?
Yeah, I thought it was going to the soil.
All right. All right, so your hypothesis is you're going to think it's going to go to the soil. Any reason why?
It likes sun.
Well, you got to
always
think,
sun?
well, think a little bit more.
I really don't have like sand around my house and there's worms around my
Because
house.
it's moist.
All right, the soil's moist. The sand often moist? No. All right. Do you ever see the sand at the beach? The water goes right through it. It percolates right through it very quickly. Soil can retain moisture a lot more effectively. Why would the worm want to be in the soil as compared to the sand?
So it can breathe easier
How's that related to the soil?
because the soil is moist and he has to be moist to breathe.
Good. The soil is moist, and the animal needs the moist body to diffuse the oxygen through.
So why is it going in the sand?
Well, it could be just testing it, but I don't think it's going to stay too long in the sand. Okay, now this is instinctive behavior. They know automatically that the soil is pretty much, see, starting to head back there already. All right, now it's made its choice, and pretty much what it's going to do is start burrowing. All right, why is it going to burrow? Why do you think that's...
Because it's colder on the ground than it is on top.
It is a little bit colder, right, but why else? What do you think is a major reason why worms stay underground?
Because it's moist. Or down
For
there.
protection.
Protection against what?
I think it's like birds and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Protection against birds, robins, all right? They make a nice feast for especially robins. Okay, so you can see it really likes that soil. So what are you going to conclude from this?
That they like the moist soil because they can use it for protection and they can breathe easier in it.
Breathe easier because it's moist. Okay, good. Okay.
We're doing the question number 1 when it's to see if the worm likes the white or the black, I mean the dark side or the light side. And we thought it would like the dark side because at night the worm comes out at night more. And our results is that it comes out, it likes the dark side more.
Okay, now did it test the white side?
Yeah, it
test the white side.
tried to make its decision by
Made its
going
decision.
back.
All right, now that's instinctive behavior. Why do you think that's important in this animal, to have that, to be able to make that decision instinctively?
Well, because probably at night there's more moisture in the soil because like the moisture collects over throughout the day, and then so, and like you said, it needs water to survive.
Okay, and soil is very similar to darkness. Why else? Why do you think it might be comforted by dark rather than light?
Because if it digs into the water inside, if it goes under the soil, it's dark and it doesn't get any light.
What else is beneficial
Because
for it, though?
if it likes white, then it probably would prefer to be out in the sun, and the sun would dry it up.
Very good. The sun would dry it up. So it's adapted to recognize darker, moist areas, and that's what it chose. Okay, good. Good.
Right now, what's happening is when we touch it, it doesn't seem to mind. But sometimes if you touch it near the top of its head, it backs up. But if you touch it back further, it doesn't mind. It doesn't bother it. So I think more reactions towards the head.
Okay. Why do you think more reactions towards the head?
Because more the nerve cells and major organs are up
Yeah,
there.
it's where all the machinery is, in the head. All right, now why do you think this earthworm evolved this behavior to respond to touch like that?
I guess
He's like afraid like the other person might hurt him or something.
Yeah, so in other words, if there's like a predator and it's near the worm could sense it and respond by pulling back into the hole. Okay?
And I'll get the...
All right, good. Represents cover. Okay, and if it's underground, that means that it's somewhat protected. See, and it's gonna...
Tom, what else has been happening in our schools as a result of the grant?
As you saw in the videotape, students are really actively involved in laboratory experiments using animals to investigate various forms of behavior. In addition to working with earthworm, students have worked with guppies, Siamese fighting fish, planaria, and hermit crabs. You also saw students recording in their journals, and this is an important part of the project. What we want students to do is to record their observations and go back and reflect on those observations and maybe come up with some new ideas for experiments that they can do at a future time. We also want them next year to look back on their reflections and observations to see if things have changed, if they come up with new ideas that could be tested in 8th, 9th, or 10th grade. In Churchill, Mrs. Jones has been piloting some work with students studying human reaction and human behavior as it impacts environmental changes in the community, environmental sources of pollution, and major responses to environmental hazards such as earthquakes and hurricanes.
David, one final question. What happens next?
Well, we're looking forward to this being a multi-year continuum, as I said at the beginning. We're seeing clearly that this year in the 7th grade, students are looking at the nervous system through animal behavior. As Tom said, next year they'll be looking at the nervous system again, but this time through human behavior. And then going on into the high school grades, when they study biology, there'll be a portion of that in which again they will look at the biology of the nervous system and come back and look at some of the behavioral things that they've already studied. And then when they do chemistry, they'll look at some of the chemical aspects of the nervous system and how nerve cells communicate with one another, and so on and so forth on through the grades in the high school. We're anticipating that by the time these students have completed several years of this, and they're in their 11th or 12th grades in our high school, as well as in South Brunswick, some of these students may have the opportunity to actually come and do some work in a laboratory at the medical school with one of the neuroscientists that are participating in the program, so that students will be able to take this experience that they've had in their schools and begin to actually apply it in the real world of biomedical research.
Well, I'd like to thank you both for being here with us today and for sharing, what I think is a very, very exciting program with our audience. Tom, I'd like to compliment you and your entire staff for the wonderful work that you've been doing with this grant. And Dr. Seiden, certainly, our appreciation to you for being the catalyst in obtaining this grant from the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. It's just another example of some of the wonderful work that you have done for the East Brunswick school system over the past 18 years. And personally, I have the greatest respect for you and do wish to extend, my appreciation and gratitude, as well as the appreciation and the gratitude of all the students who are currently in the East Brunswick Public Schools and those who have gone through the schools in the past, and also the future students, because you have made a difference in our schools. You've contributed greatly to our success, and in a very large measure, the achievements that we've been able to obtain can be directly responsible to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you for those kind words.
To our audience, I'd like to thank you for watching and hope you'll be back with us again next month when we'll be reviewing some of the highlights of the entire year.